How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Riddler, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. They've got ourselves some massive, actually genuinely massive Pokemon leaks that we're going to take a look at. So let's get right into it. So Centro here posted, Centro Leaks, a leaks aggregator, source location place, whatever you want to call it. They tweeted out, new leak, our well-known Pokemon leaker, and he's referring to Riddler Khu here, and I'll explain who he is in a second. He says, though, our well-known Pokemon leaker claims that three Pokemon projects have already been greenlit for the Switch successor, which is, that is massive. He says also, including that project, whatever it means, probably Gen 10. Again, I don't know, this is insane, man, but let's see what this is all about, you know what I mean? Let's see what this is all about. Also, according to the old leaker, he says old leaker because, you know, it's Riddler Khu and he's trying to mess with him, says then following that Pokémon Legends ZA will still be the focus on Pokemon Day 2025, so it won't be out by then, which doesn't necessarily mean that us getting, like, you know, information still and that the game won't be out by Pokemon Day next year, that means that that's the only thing we're going to see, because that would be pretty shitty. And also, as like Jay says here, right, like, meaning we're likely to get a mainline remake to end off the Switch's lifespan, but whatever one it is, whether it's Unova or Johto, it's what's bothering everyone, because someone could say Unova and can be wrong, and it's Johto, vice versa. Moving on, though, here's the actual post from none else than Riddler Khu himself, right? This is him himself talking about it, going into it, and just discussing it. Well, what is he actually saying? Well, he says the following, and that project is on the way. And here is the interesting part. He says, this is Furukawa, president of Nintendo. We'd like to make an announcement about the successor to Nintendo Switch within this fiscal year. It will have been over 9 years since we announced the existence of Nintendo Switch back in March 2015. We'll be holding a Nintendo Direct in June. So yes, this is basically what he's talking about. And then he says here, by the way, 3 projects on this list so far. Okay, so he's saying there are 3 projects on the list for the next Switch, right? For the Switch 2. There are 3 projects from Pokemon. One of them could be PLZA. One of them's going to be Generation 10. 100% is going to be Gen 10. But what's the third thing? Like, that's the big thing we're all questioning. Now, if you guys do not know who Riddler Khu is, this is a man who's been leaking stuff for a long time. He is a genuine leaker. He does give out actual information. It's not like, you know, he makes stuff up necessarily. He does have sources and stuff. The thing is, though, he has been a little bit too vague sometimes about his like, kind of riddles that he makes. But he's a genuine leaker for those of you who do not know him. However, though, in recent times, he has been a little bit too flimsy with his info, but this does seem like it's a bit more concrete. Like, he's being way more direct with this when he's telling us this information. He's not kind of giving us a whole, like, ring around the rosy thing. He's genuinely telling us, like, hey, there is a project in the works. There are, you know, by the way, 3 projects on the list so far. If there are 3 projects for the Nintendo Switch 2, could one of them be a Legends ZA port? Because we know the Switch is going to have Legends ZA on it, like the regular Switch. But does that also mean the next Switch is going to have it? Is he talking about 3 totally different games? He's talking about Gen 10, a remake, and something else. Like, what is he referring to here? That's the issue. And also he says here that, are you excited for PD 25, which is Pokemon Day 25, so Pokemon Day next year in 2025? Keep talking shits about Ikaku. Now, Ikaku is the code name. Ikaku is the code name of Pokemon Legends ZA. Like, that's the actual code name used for that project. And he's saying here that, you know, you can keep talking shit about it, but, you know, they're going to keep talking about it during the actual presents, I guess, or whatever is going to be happening, you know, for Pokemon Day next year. He says, also, prepare for interesting goods coming later by the end of this year. So this is him confirming something is happening at the end of this year. Like, some product, some Pokemon game, something is coming this year. And he doesn't necessarily say, like, the only thing we know for a fact is coming this year, like, for a fact, is TCG Pocket, which he usually doesn't talk about the Go games. He doesn't really talk about that. He occasionally brings up Pokemon Quest, right? But that's the only spin-off game he ever mentions, and that's just his own interest because he's in China and he plays the Chinese version of it, which is non-stop updated. However, it doesn't correlate at all to anything we know. We have no actual concrete information about a new game this year. However, there is a long-standing theory that's been existing now for a bit, which is that we could get something this month. We could get an announcement now in May, or possibly an announcement during the Nintendo Direct in June. Now, you might argue, oh, well, Ruffle Rowland, wait a minute. We don't really get announcement for new Pokemon games during Nintendo Directs anymore. Well, we used to, and anything is possible. We got the first ever news of the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet during a Nintendo Direct. Like, actual first proper gameplay was shown to us during a Nintendo Direct, and not during a Pokemon Presents. So keep that in mind. Pokemon Presents are very sparse. They only happen like about once or twice a year. Nowadays, it's more likely they only happen once a year. But when they do happen, they're very sparse. They're very far away from each other, and we don't get them too often. So sometimes Pokemon news do happen during a Nintendo Direct. And guess what? This specific Direct, if we go back here to what's being said by Mr. Furukawa, the president of Nintendo, he specifically said that Nintendo Direct this June will be happening, and it's in regards to Nintendo Switch software lineups for later half of 2024. So that's talking about the second half of 2024, like the next half of 2024. And guess what? Pokemon could definitely be announced there. Now, you might say, well, that's not going to happen because we got Legends ZA already announced. Why would they announce the second game? They still could. Pokemon Remake games always used to get announced in May and June. That's when Pokemon Remake games like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, third versions like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, like those type of games, even Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, were all announced in May/June, anywhere in that time frame. Sure, would they already announce necessarily in a Pokemon Direct? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Would they announce like in a Nintendo Direct? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Would they announce at a press conference? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Point being, there's always a chance that these things could be announced in a Nintendo Direct. It doesn't discount it. And this is where I'm going to take up a little bit of a theory. Now, he mentions a few different projects, right? He's talking about several different projects. The fact that you should prepare for some interesting goods, multiple goods, whatever that could be, coming later at the end of this year, later by the end of this year. Here's the thing. We know for a fact that the Pokemon Company, as well as Ilka, the company that made Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the remakes of Diamond and Pearl, we know that those two companies together are working on a new studio called Pokemon Works. Pokemon Works is a brand new studio that's supposed to exist to help out and also create brand new Pokemon video game projects. We know this for a fact. It is a confirmed thing. It's not like a theory or anything. We know that's a real thing. So it makes me wonder, is it possible that they're going to poop out and give us some kind of Pokemon project by the end of this year? The fact that he's tweeting any of this is interesting because he doesn't really tweet much, like he doesn't really tweet much else, usually about this kind of stuff. And he doesn't really seem this willing to give this much information or put this much out. Now, it might not seem like a lot, but remember, this is Riddler Khu. If you do not know this guy, he is very vague. He just barely gives us anything, man. Like, we ask for an inch, he gives us, 1% of that, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't really do a lot in terms of giving us, a lot of information. This is a lot from him. This is way, 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 way more than we should expect from him normally. Now, people are asking him, also prepare for interesting goods coming by the end of this year. Somebody said it. The Rowlet Herald said there are possibly at least 72 types sitting in the lineup. He says, nope, just some funny goods that will empty your wallets. And again, funny goods that will empty your wallet. What that means, I don't really know. I'm not sure exactly what that's supposed to mean. Unless he's specifically talking about, like Lena here says, yes, I'm going to get an entirely new wallet for this so the Pokemon Company can empty it in style. Well, I think it could be about the TCG, right? The Pokemon card game. I think that's maybe what he's talking about. But why would he be so, if that's what he's talking about, why would he be mysterious about it? He could just say, oh, the card game. The card game. Why would he be mysterious about it? It's just weird. You know what I mean? It's just weird. He doesn't concretely say anything here. And then here, he also tweeted this out a while back saying, what will we get with the first batch of ZA news? And then it was basically look between A and D, and it was S, right? So that was us predicting it was going to be starters. And that's still what we are predicting, that we're going to get some sort of starter reveal. But again, that's pretty much it. Again, when people ask him stuff, he literally just says, prepare for interesting goods coming by the later end of this year. And again, it's just going to be something funny to empty your wallets. Again, it could be something small. It could be a small game. It could be a spin-off game. It could be a literal remake. I don't know. Point is, he was still hinting, him plus a bunch of other people were talking about black and white remakes for the longest time. It is still a possibility that could happen. Or it could be Johto remakes, because remember, this year is still the 25th anniversary, I think. Yeah, I think it's a 25-year anniversary, unless I'm mistaken. I think it's the 25-year anniversary of Gold and Silver. So it's been a long time since those games came out, and we still haven't gotten anything in regards to that. So it's just a bit of a messy situation to try to understand. The whole thing is just all over the place right now. I'm not going to lie to you. It is really all over the place. So I'd love to know what you guys think. What do you think that these three projects are, right? What do you think these three projects are? Again, and do you think the way he's talking about it here, do you think that these projects are specifically, if we go to his actual Twitter account here, do you think that these projects that he says here, by the way, 3 projects on the list so far, is he talking about 3 projects for the Switch or 3 projects in general for like, you know, from like the Game Freak and whatnot? Like, what is he talking about? Is it 3 specifically for the Switch 2, or is he talking about across the board for regular Switch, the next Switch, etc.? What is he talking about? Because that's the point I'm stuck at. And also, out of these 3 projects on that list so far, does this have to do anything with that? Does, like, this, you know, this whole thing here, this, like, game at the end of this year, does that have anything to do with that? Because we know for a fact the next Switch is not coming out this year. That's coming out next year. So is that technically 4 projects then? Point is, we don't know what it is, and it's just all right now a bit of theorizing. Also, there was this post from Central Leaks, who has some Nintendo Switch 2 leaks for us, which is awesome, saying from Brazilian TVPH. Now, this is the same person that originally correctly leaked the internal delay of the console to next year, which is fair enough. He says the following, though, this information from that leaker, who says Switch 2 is planned to release on March 2025, so it's still set to be the same kind of month as the original Switch 2 for a release, which is fair enough. That is a decent time frame, nothing crazy with that. It says expecting more information about the console in fall, which again, yeah, it's kind of what we're expecting, right? Like, I'm expecting to see this console announced and shown to us about half a year, like 6 months before the actual release of it. He says more remasters will be revealed on June Direct, being planned as the last big Switch-focused Direct. Ooh, okay. So the next Nintendo Direct is the final Direct we're going to have focused on the Nintendo Switch, pretty much. Like the regular Nintendo Switch, the original, the OG. Which actually would make sense, right? Like, they got to get the last bit of games out, hype them up, get people to spend money on them, and then move on to the next thing. Like, they got to do it because people got to be excited to buy the next Switch. Otherwise, why would they, right? They needed a reason to be excited. So we'll see how that turns out. It says Indie World planned for August. Okay, interesting. So an Indie World is planned for August, which is fine. He says some third-party games will be confirmed for Switch 2 as early as the second half of this year. Okay. All right, fair enough. So some games already going to be known for the Switch 2. That's pretty wild. I wonder if any of those will be Pokemon related, or if it's just mostly going to be like, you know, Zelda, Mario, you know, stuff like that. Like, I don't really know what to expect. Or it's going to be third-party games. Who knows? He then also says that reiterates that Switch 2 will have physical and digital backwards compatibility with the OG Switch games, which is good. Oh, my Lord. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. That thing, honestly, that shit is the stuff that, like, really had me worried that we were not going to be getting our hands on it at all. So, yeah, you know, we'll see how it turns out, man. We'll see how it turns out. It is an interesting situation, to say the least. Also, Amashino had something interesting. He says, last year, Riddler Khu, right, we talked about it a minute ago, posted these pictures out of nowhere. It seems as if this was relating to Pokémon Legends ZA, which must have been in its early stages of development back then. So I wonder, does any of this mean anything? FE, like, will AZ's flat be catchable? And this is like weird tweets where he just had winking faces, and then just playing with you, and just a bunch of legendaries, and then also AZ's Floette, which just, again, it didn't make a lot of sense. If you guys have any theories on this, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to know what you guys think about it. And then also, we have Superior, who had just a little bit of thoughts on, like, you know, the actual strain that Game Freak is going through trying to push out games. And he says, time is not really the real issue. It's the strain put on the company. And then we're talking about what was posted by Soul, saying, Part 2, so when will PLZA release in 2025? I think the implication of 2025 game being announced on Pokemon Day 2024 is that it will release early 2025, as most likely before Pokemon Day 2025. Now we know that it's not going to be before Pokemon Day 2025, unless Centro is wrong here, and what Riddler Khu is trying to say here when he says, are you excited for PD25, talking shits about Ikaku? Again, the English doesn't help here with the confusion on it. If he just actually gave a proper explanation for it, that would be great. But, like, all I'm saying is this. What is he referring to here? Is he trying to say that they're just going to still be talking about it and that's it? Or does he mean that, like, oh, the game's already going to be out, but they're just going to talk about it, not going to announce a new game? Which would be weird to know about, you know, that so far ahead of time. And also, would that then mean that, like, also prepare for interesting goods coming later by the end of this year? Could then this be just related to the goods being, like, information about Legends ZA? Is that what he's referring to? Again, it's a very confusing little thing. But here's the interesting part, though. Looking at, like, this actual thing here is like a schedule of, you know, how the releases work. And it's just a lot of congestion, right? It's a lot of congestion with Pokemon releases. And I disagreed with Superior because I want Pokemon games. You got to understand. I need to make videos. I need to talk about something. And I also want to be excited for something. There's just nothing to be excited about with Pokemon right now. There's just nothing to bring excitement, hype, None of that, okay? I'm just genuinely not excited for anything right now when it comes to Pokemon, because there's nothing to be excited about. Legends ZA, we have no gameplay, we have no release date, we have no info, nothing, okay? We have nothing to be excited for. And the thing is, it's nice to just have something, and I just wish they would give us little breadcrumbs every month. Like, I don't mind even waiting 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, because we got the rest of this year, right? So it's more or less like 2 years to go, you know, without an actual new Pokemon game. But, like, I don't mind waiting 2 years as long as we have some information just to keep us involved and invested. That's all I ask for. But, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much summarizes that. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, and bye-bye, ladies and gents.